Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the YouTube channel for Peacefully Wired. My name is Matt, aka Peacefully Wired. And in this video, I want to talk about working and OCD. And just me saying work might have made a lot of you scroll past by, and that's totally cool. All right, this might not even apply to you if you have OCD. You might have a job, you might have a great career. Still a great message either way. Before I continue, please like and subscribe and comment down below. Let me know what you think about the content. And if you'd like to learn more about one-on-one coaching with me, it's support@peacefullywired.com. And if you'd like to have information about how to join our Peacefully Wired OCD community, please let me know and I'll send you the link. So work and OCD. Now, I get a lot of people that contact me on all different platforms that I'm on. And there's a lot of people out there that, because of their struggle with OCD, find it very challenging to work. I was one of these people, especially when OCD really latched on. I found it very difficult to hold down a job. And through my life, I bounced from job to job to job. Most of my life, I self-medicated. So having OCD and self-medicating basically afforded me having very basic, low skill level jobs. It's just the way it was. I'm 45 years old right now. I will be 46 in a couple of months. I have had probably over 50 jobs in my life now. This were some of those jobs where I applied, got the job, went, worked for a couple days, and left. Absolutely. And were some of those jobs where they lasted for a longer period of time? Yes. But I found it extremely difficult to work. I had some really rigid black and white beliefs about working, and a lot of people out there do. And I did have somebody comment on one of my posts, and I'm not trying to like diminish this person. I understand the struggle of OCD. I understand it's challenging, but if you can't get a job, okay, if you can't work, I don't care if you're under the age of 18, and there's plenty of jobs out there. I see kids working all the time. I know they're out there. Or if you're somebody who's older and you just refuse to work. Okay, so this person that commented said, I can't get a job because I don't like working most jobs. Black and white thinking about work. Okay. Most jobs don't pay that well. I'm looking for a normal job. I just want a normal job. There's all of that stuff is black and white, irrational beliefs about jobs. There's no normal job. Most jobs don't pay what you want to get paid. If you're making that kind of a statement, there's a really high probability that, dude, you don't have the skill set to do a job, okay, that will give you a high paying, will give you a high income or a high wage. If that's the way you're talking, I don't like working most jobs. I want a normal job. Most jobs don't pay that much. You haven't earned the skill and earned to have a high wage. And I had the same exact attitude about working. Oh, I don't want to work these jobs. This job is beneath me. Why would I try hard at this job? I'm not going to, I make the business money, but I'm not going to get any more money if this business sees an increase this month or this week or whatever. Right? I'm above these jobs. Oh, I can't work that job. That job is for losers. Right? We all have these attitudes. Not all of us, but a lot of people do. And it's something that I dealt with a lot in my life. And the person that commented, I can see right away your beliefs about working are definitely irrational, definitely black and white, definitely rigid. If you can't just go out and get a job, and first and foremost, like, it's a huge shame attack if you think that there are jobs that are beneath you and your only option is to pick one that you don't want to do. It's an incredible shame attack. It's an incredible an incredible challenge in building a high frustration tolerance. It has so many benefits for you to go out and work a job you might not want to work to help you get over OCD. I'll tell you right now, if you're not working, you are not going to recover from OCD. If you can't do the simple thing, it is a simple thing to go out and get a job. I know depending on where you are, it could be challenging. I just know, I don't know, if you live in a smaller, a rural area, potential that there's not a lot of job opportunities. Okay. But I'm telling you right now, there's always something you can do to earn in money in some type of a way. There just is. You've got access to so many different things nowadays. There is a way to make money. It might not be what you have in your mind as the right way or the normal way to make money, but there are opportunities out there for you. And this waiting around to find for the perfect job to come along, look, never going to happen. The people that get the opportunities in life to do what they want to do are the ones that pursue them. They don't wait around for it. And just like OCD recovery, you can't wait around for it to happen. You actually have to put in the work. So if you are hoping that a job is just going to come along that's going to fit the bill for you, never going to happen. You'll be waiting forever. And like I said, the small things compound. When you can actually go out and have some humility, okay, and humble yourself and go, look, I need to be out and doing something. Like if you're 16 and older and you're not working, I don't know what you're doing. Like unless you're someone who's like a high level athlete, or you're in some type of program where you're focused super, on your studies. Maybe you have parents that are well off and you don't need to work, and you're focused on some program, right? Again, athletics, music, maybe you're getting into the arts. Okay. If you're just the average kid living in the average town and you're 16 years old and you're fucking around and you don't have a job, I don't know what you're doing with yourself, right? And if you have OCD, it's exponentially important that you go out and work. Okay. Like I said, I've had probably over 50 jobs in my life. The reason why I've had so many jobs is because of my attitudes towards working. I'm better than these jobs. I'm more capable. I have more potential. But the thing about that is I never did anything that would prove that I had that potential. I never really put my effort into any of the jobs that I did work because I thought they were all beneath me, with the exception of a few here and there, right? But overall, my attitude was so poor about working and working for people that I never excelled at any of the jobs that I did. I was always a just get by person. I was always pretty much one of the least favorite workers of any boss that I've ever had. I know that for sure. Okay. And it was all due to my beliefs about working. Black and white beliefs about working, irrational beliefs, rigid beliefs about work. There is no what you're supposed to do. There is no normal job. Okay, if that was the case, then everybody would be considered normal. Their job would be normal. There would be no hey, this job is better than this job. Like every job would be the same. There's no such thing as a normal job. There's no such thing as a job that fits you. You can do literally anything. I've worked in many different jobs. And when you limit yourself with this attitude that there's only certain things that I will do because of your belief about work and your inability to be able to like take some job that society, friends, family might look at you and go like, is that where you're going to work? Look, if you don't have a choice and you're just holding out and not working because you think magically someday you're just going to find like the great job, it's not ever going to happen. You have to swallow your pride and go out and get a job. Okay? When I was 35 years old and I started working on recovery, okay, I had bounced. I'd met my girlfriend, who's my wife now. And during the time that we first met, I had bounced from a few different jobs because I was really struggling with OCD. And understand, I get it, right? If I would never have met my wife, I don't know where I would be, to be perfectly honest with you. I had the benefit of having somebody in my corner and needing to be able to contribute to a household. Okay. So I did have that, but it didn't mean that what my trajectory wasn't any less difficult to go actually work jobs that I thought were beneath me. 35 years old, I really had no skill set other than I did go to culinary school and I could work in restaurants and I could cook. But the problem was, obviously, I had chronic severe OCD. So it was very challenging for me. For me, my my attitude was always, I'm going to feel better and then I'll put the effort into my life. And that's ass backwards. Okay. And there are people that have OCD that don't have that philosophy and have put a lot of effort into their careers and they still struggle on the chronic level. I was the opposite. I need to feel a certain way before I'm going to put my effort into my life. And that's the way a lot of you out there feel. And that will never get you anywhere in life, not just in a job, in life in general. You're never going to feel ready to do anything. But when I first started getting help, I got a job at 35 years old at a fast food restaurant. I wasn't allowed to wear this goatee, so I had no facial hair, which I don't prefer. I had to wear a funny outfit. Okay. It was like a throwback place. I'll just call it what it's called, Portillo's. It's a hot dog, hamburger, Chicago style beef sandwiches type of a place in Scottsdale, Arizona. They originated in Chicago. Okay. I worked at Portillo's for about 2 years, listening to 50s music every day. Okay. Having to serve people in a really wealthy area. Okay. I had to swallow my pride because I was making a wage. I actually got really great insurance working there, which helped my wife and I and our family at the time, her daughter. But I didn't like working there. Okay. But I did it because I had to. And even at that time, I wasn't really aware of how important it was for OCD recovery for me to actually work. But I know the benefit of it now. And in that time frame, we decided that we were going to move to another state. So I had to get a second job. Another thing I was really against in my life, working two jobs. Who wants to do that? Oh man, that's a scumbag. Like seriously, these are my attitudes. I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you're not familiar with Scottsdale, it is a very wealthy area, a lot of well-to-do. I went to school with a lot of kids who had very wealthy parents, famous parents. Okay, lawyers, doctors. I mean, if you drive around Scottsdale for 30 minutes in certain areas, most areas, it is extreme wealth. And I went to school with a lot of kids that had those attitudes. Kids driving to school in Beamers, Benzes. You know, I remember this one girl had a brand new Chevy Blazer, crashed it into the school, and the next, like 2 days later, had a brand new car. So I grew up around attitudes of I'm better than this. So that's kind of where I got a lot of this. But my parents were pretty middle class. We had a nice home, right? But like I said, I had friends who you could have fit our home inside of their home, basically, backyard and all. Okay, so not even friends, just people I went to school with. So that's why I developed these attitudes, right? And you don't have to come from a wealthy area to develop the attitude that you're too good to work a job. But that's the attitude. I mean, I had to swallow my pride to work at Portillo's. And I did. And I did it for 2 years. And I did my best. I think I did a pretty good job. And then I got a second job. Again, like I didn't want to, like this is in my life. I was like, two jobs, like, you know, and the thing is like there's even really successful people that have two jobs. There's people that do all sorts of different things, right? I mean, you can have a professional athlete that's also an artist. You can have a professional athlete that also does acting. You could have an actor that's also into music, right? I mean, people do multiple things, you know, just on the lower level, I guess you could say, where you have two just average, you know, run of the mill jobs. Working two jobs can seem like, and I always thought like, oh my God, like what about my free time? I don't want to be somebody who's working all the time. And I really equivocated two jobs with being a lower class citizen. And the thing about that is like, if you think about all of the places that we go to, every single place, from your Starbucks to your fast food to your grocery store, deli, janitors, office cleaners, house cleaners, right? All of these things are services that people want and look for. someone's got to do them. And it's so easy, just as a human in general, to like look down on those types of people. It was easy for me to do. I'm above that. I'm better than that. And no one's better than anybody. I don't care if you're, I always like to use Elon. He's the first person that comes to my mind. I don't care if you're Elon or Bezos. You're not better than anybody just because of what you're able to create, right? Elon still goes to a local coffee shop if he drinks coffee. He goes out to eat, most likely, or he pays a private chef, doesn't cook his own meals. I bet you I would put my recovery that Elon doesn't make his own meals. Okay, Bezos either. Those guys aren't cooking for themselves. They're going out. And there's got to be someone there to do that, right? And so there's pride in being a part of something that's making things run. It's really easy to go, oh, the wages are too low, right? I don't want to work these jobs because the wages are too low. A low wage is better than no wage, especially if you're like living in your mom's basement or having your parents help you out. I don't care if you're 18 or you're 35. Like you need to be working and earning some money. Like again, unless you're like, even if you're out of university and your parents have gobs of money and you don't really have to work, like working builds character. You meet some of these people that never have had a job in their life and they just go from high school to college to a career and they've never really had to work for anything and they just get stuff handed to them, right? These people are assholes. Like let's not like mix words. Some of them are probably pretty decent human beings, but or behave decently anyways, but a lot of these people are jerks, man. They're very entitled. I think everybody should have a service job at least for a year in their life. Wait tables, work at a deli, work at a grocery store. There's nothing wrong with any of these jobs, right? And it's really easy to look down on them and go, well, that's not something I want to do. Okay, well, for the meantime, unless all of a sudden you're going to start building a business from scratch, you're going to have to go do something so that you can have some type of an income, right? While you're working on your recovery. If you're struggling with OCD and you're just sitting around and you're waiting to get better or you're waiting for a job to come around, that shit is never going to happen. My wife is telling me to stop using swear words, and I'm sorry, I get passionate and I get frustrated. But I understand. I also understand. I was in that boat. I had that mindset. I don't really want to work. That was actually a big kind of like philosophy of mine. Gosh, I can't wait for the day when I don't ever have to work again. And now I am the opposite of that. Like I would like to be able to build something, right, to where money would not be an object. But I also know that there's no way I could sit around all day and do nothing. There's no way I could just golf all day, right? I don't want to golf all day. I do want to do something, right? And that was an attitude I never really had before. I always think it was there. It was just not something I really knew. And I thought working is tiring and working for somebody else is it takes away my free time and someone else makes money and I only make a small wage. And it's like, you got to get over that stuff. You really do. That mindset has to go if you're gonna work on recovery from OCD, because with OCD you have to learn unconditional acceptance. All those things are conditions on your life. I can't work or have a job unless it's this and it pays this and I do this and I can be seen in this type of a way. All that's conditional. You ain't never going to recover from OCD if you have that mentality. And so I had 2 jobs at one point. We moved to another state, and I carried one job with me. My wife was working 2 jobs. We moved to Boise, Idaho, so that my wife could start a magazine, a publication in an affluent area in Boise, Idaho, a suburb. And while she was doing that when we first moved there, I was working at Whole Foods in Boise, Idaho. I loved working at the one in Paradise Valley, Arizona. Loved it. My best friend was my supervisor, and it was just a great environment. And then I moved to Boise and started working at the Boise one, and everything changed. It didn't help that Amazon had purchased Whole Foods at that Whole Foods. It had been like a year earlier, and that location, the one that I worked in Paradise Valley, had not started to implement the Amazon way of doing things, but the Boise one had, and so things were a little bit different. The culture had been changed. If you're familiar with Whole Foods, like pre 2018, It was a pretty cool place to work. You could wear whatever you wanted, which I see more in grocery stores now. But you could wear whatever you wanted. You know, you could kind of come as you were. You had to do a good job, obviously, but it was more laid back. And then they sold to Amazon, and everything became very regimented, right? So I moved. I didn't like that job. My wife is building up this magazine. She's working like 14 hours a day. You know, she's working during the. She might have been working more than that. She's working during the day, going into business, calling on businesses, trying to sell advertising. Meanwhile, she's working for the real estate agent she was working for back in Arizona remotely, you know, and I'm working at Whole Foods, hating my life, complaining about it a great deal. Because why? Rigid, irrational, black and white thinking about what I'm owed. Okay. And was the management shaky at best at that Whole Foods? Absolutely. And were there a lot of issues with the way that they treated employees and some things that I might have taken personal that weren't maybe personal, but maybe were? It doesn't really matter. Absolutely. But it was complaining so much because of what I thought I was entitled to. Again, no real skill set to prove that, right? I'm not the model worker. I come in on time. I don't really crush it at work because I'm just getting by. I'm doing the bare minimum, enough just to not get, just to not get fired, essentially. So I was complaining a whole bunch. My wife says, "Well, why don't you come help me? We'll open up another magazine." This is around the time she had already opened up a magazine. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I got into working in the kitchen because I don't like people. I don't want to deal with customers. Okay. And another couple of weeks went by, and I was like, okay, let's do this. And so I went from being, there are no introverts or extroverts. I don't believe that we have 8 billion people in the world. I don't believe that you just define yourself by you're that or this. I mean, I think you can have those tendencies, but I was introverted to a certain extent. Going and talking to strangers was not something I was big on doing. Right now I can do it. I can talk to anybody. I talk to people all the time. And before, I wasn't able to really do that. It was hard for me to talk to strangers, much less like a CEO and owner of a business or GM of a car dealership, whatever. I was always like really intimidated to go to these places because I never had been anybody in my life. I'd never been someone who earned a good living. I was somebody who didn't have a career. I was someone who never ascended, a corporate a ladder. I never started my own business, and here I am, still working on recovery to a certain extent, and I'm walking into these businesses, just not confident. My wife had to tell me many times, like, you got to speak up, you have to kind of behave. Like I tell everybody, like, you have to behave this. You have to fake it till you make it, right? Fake it till you make it. We got a coach. That coach helped me a great deal through the franchise that we owned. The franchisor gave us some coaches. So through that, I started I read some books. I watched YouTube videos. I watched motivation stuff. I was really trying to get myself in this mindset of being a salesperson, and went out there. My wife did help me, and I was able to make enough sales, again, with her help, and some crossover from the magazine that we already had. And we were able to bring another magazine to print. And so we had 2 magazines doing pretty well, right? Making more money than I've ever made in my life for a couple years in a row, which was amazing. We didn't essentially, I never really worried about money. I went from, literally living paycheck to paycheck. Like, I'm talking about, I get a paycheck on a Friday. That paycheck, that money is literally gone by the next Friday. Okay. And I'm making, a few $100s a week. And what I spent my money on was the rent that I was paying the guys I was sleeping on their couch, weed, booze, and food. That's all I spent my money on. And a little side note is, one of the guys I was living with was into Bitcoin when it was like kind of just bubbling up, right? It was just becoming a thing. And he's like, man, you should take some of that money and buy this Bitcoin. And if I would have just taken like $100 one week and not spent it on drugs and put it into Bitcoin, there's a good chance I'd have a lot of money right now. So, but that type of stuff, like, I wasn't interested in doing any of those things. I was only interested in like keeping my high going and keeping myself like my life sucks is what I thought. And so I thought all that stuff was making it better. But so I went from that to now I'm like, we live in a nice community in Eagle, Idaho, which is like Scottsdale light essentially, and affluent and beautiful. We were living in this beautiful home, and and that all happened because I took a risk, and I humbled myself, and I was able to be humble, and I was able to work through the embarrassment of getting shot down by people, the fear of people not buying, of me looking foolish, right, of all that stuff. And then here's what happened. So in that time frame, I actually had a major relapse in 2021 from I was pretty good from just OCD in general. I had a lot of compulsions and reassurance things I was doing, which is why this happened. Okay, but I thought I was good. Like many people out there, I felt a lot better than I had. I thought I was doing really well. Again, I was self-medicating a lot. So, how can I really measure how well I was really doing? Doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. But um, so I had a major relapse and started having a lot of issues around relationship OCD. And so we ended up, having to like move on one of our magazines, which I fully take responsibility for because of what was happening. We ended up doing some other things, and then we ended up eventually moving back to Arizona. And in this time frame, I actually found who helped me get to where I am today, and the information that I'm passing on, what I learned, and what I learned from them helped me a great deal. And so we decided to leave Idaho in 2024, okay, and moved to a new city called Prescott, Arizona, started 2 magazines from scratch. At this point, I'm the salesperson. My wife does the behind the scenes. She does more of the work than I do, okay? Sales is an extremely important part, but without my wife, this wouldn't move along. She's, helped with some of the sales, but I'm like the face of the company. I'm going out in a place that we don't know anybody. We're brand new to the area. It's a smaller community. It's a business-based community because there's not a lot of opportunity there. So you either own a business or you work for somebody that owns a business. So people in the business community know each other. And we were outsiders, and we were still able to get 2 magazines plus start selling an AI program that we have. It's an AI employee able to do that. Okay, do that, and then we started getting Peacefully Wired up and running. And that just started with me just, my wife's just like, just make post a day and keep the consistency. And that built on itself until people started contacting me. And then there was like, maybe we should build this into a coaching business. And there was a point to where, like, okay, yeah, let's scale this out and let's wait. And then there just came a point where like, I think we should just start it right now. And I had to take that leap and that chance, and we did. And so, and all that stuff is taking up time. It's taking up my free time to where I used to be like, I need my free time 9 to 5. I go to work, I come home, TV's on, eat dinner. There's nothing else going on. And now it's like, we'll be 7 o'clock before we turn the television on. We're sitting on the porch. We're doing things. I'm learning how to play the guitar. Okay. Taking time out to do that, taking time out to make content, taking time out to I'm looking at becoming a personal trainer. I think it will go really well with what I'm already doing, helping people with OCD. I can help people with build their bodies, but also help them with their minds, right? So all of this stuff takes effort, and all of this stuff is stuff I never thought I would be able to do because OCD was so consuming. But the main point is that you got to go out and do this stuff. Like, you can't wait around. You have to plug back in to life, and you have to do these things, or you'll never get better, and you'll never get the point that we're at right now. Things are building. I never thought that I would be here. There's a lot of opportunity. I'm extremely excited, where a lot of this stuff would have given me a lot of fear and a lot of hesitation, right? I'm just pushing forward. Now, just because you're not in a place where you can just build a business out of nothing, right? It's going to take, especially if you don't have a job, okay? It's going to take you going out and getting a job. Go get a job. Go do something and earn some money somehow. Swallow your pride. Go ask a neighbor if you can mow their lawn. I know that sounds ridiculous, but go see if you can earn some money in your neighborhood. Hey, you've got we walk around and we're in a nice area. There are people that have weeds all over their front yards. I can't imagine what their backyard must look like. People that want to get rid of stuff. Hey, I can haul this stuff away for you. It's doing something, trying to get some momentum going instead of sitting around waiting for something. And you're also going to have to change your beliefs and your attitudes about work. Okay? Work is work. There is no good job. There is no bad job. Okay? You can't rate a job by its totality, just like you can't rate a human being by in its totality, right? You could see a job that maybe has some everything has pros and cons. There's jobs that have pros and cons to them. There's pros and cons to running your own business and being an entrepreneur. There's pros. Free time. I have a lot more free time, freedom of mind, free time. I don't have to work for somebody, right? But there's taxes that we have to pay, which are extremely expensive. Our insurance is extremely expensive. We rely on a lot of things, right? I don't just work right down the road where I could walk or take a bus potentially if our car broke down. I need the car. It's a necessity for us because where our businesses are, we move down an hour and a half away back to Phoenix. So I have to go up there a couple times a week. Pros and cons to working a 9 to 5, right? Steady paycheck, good insurance, job security, depending on what type of job you have. If you work in certain situations, certain industries, there's a chance that AI is going to take your job pretty soon. 100% going to happen. But there's cons to it as well. You're working for somebody, not a lot of free time, but you do have time away from the job where you could build something. Dealing with the public can be a con, but it can also be a pro, depending on your attitude. If you're going into work every day and you're like, oh, this place sucks, I don't want to help anybody, which I see a lot of that. Or you go in and you're like, man, I'm going to help anybody. I don't care what kind of attitude they have. I'm going to have a good attitude. And whatever you do, like Snoop Dogg says, if you're a burger flipper, man, or you're going to be, working at be the best fast food worker that's ever lived. Why? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Who knows what that could lead to? And if it only leads to you being the best fast food worker at a McDonald's, what's wrong with that? That's something to take pride in. I'm the best, I'm the best at this job. I mean, I think that that's something to be proud of. It's the effort that you're putting into it. It doesn't matter, what somebody else might think of that. It's about your effort. And if you can put the effort into being the best McDonald's, fast food worker that's ever lived, then you probably have a lot of potential of being able to run your own restaurant or something else. Okay. It's that attitude and the effort that's put into it. So I know this was, it's probably a longer video. But yeah, anyways, guys, I appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe. One-on-one coaching with me, support at peacefullywired.com. And if you want to join our Peacefully Wired OCD community, please let me know and I will share the link with you. So stay tuned for the next one. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.